Within the first 5 minutes of encountering a man, a woman has already gathered more information about him than he will ever know she collected, not through interrogation, not through any conscious process she could sit down and describe to you accurately, through something far more instinctive than that. Her nervous system has been reading him since the moment he entered her awareness, and by the time any conversation has properly begun, she already has a felt sense of who he is that will take significant evidence to revise. Most men believe the first 5 minutes are about making an impression, saying the right things, looking the part, projecting the right energy. And while none of that is irrelevant, the things a woman is actually registering in those opening minutes are almost never the things a man is consciously managing. She is reading what he is not trying to show her. And that is precisely why it tells her so much more. Today I'm going to tell you what she actually noticed, the things she absorbed, assessed, and filed away before you had any idea the evaluation was already complete. Not so you can perform these things better, so you can understand what actually matters and invest your energy in the right places. This is Wisdom and Lace. I am Grace. And as a woman, I can tell you that what I am about to share is something women know instinctively but rarely articulate even to each other. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss what we cover each week. The first thing she noticed is how you occupy your own body. Before you said a single word, she watched how you carried yourself through the space you were in. Not whether you were tall or conventionally attractive, how comfortable you appeared to be inside your own physical existence. A man who is at ease in his body moves differently from a man who is not. There is no fidgeting driven by self-consciousness, no subtle contraction as if he is trying to take up less space than he is entitled to, no performance of size or dominance either. Just a man who inhabits himself without apology and without effort. That quality registers in a woman's awareness immediately, and it communicates something that no amount of careful dressing or rehearsed body language can replicate. You are either at home in yourself or you are not, and she knows which one within seconds of watching you move. The second thing she noticed is the quality of your stillness. Most men are not still. They are in a constant, low-level state of motion, driven by the anxiety of being in a social environment and not knowing how they are landing. They adjust, they shift, they fill silences with unnecessary movement. They reach for their phone or their drink, not because they need either, but because having something to do with their hands manages the discomfort of simply being present without props. A man who can be still, genuinely still, without requiring activity to justify his presence in a space, communicates a quality of internal settledness that a woman's nervous system responds to before her mind has processed why. Stillness is rare, and in a man it reads as strength. The third thing she noticed is how you treat people who cannot do anything for you. The way a man interacts with a server, a bartender, someone passing through the edges of the social environment rather than the center of it, tells a woman more about his character in 30 seconds than an hour of conversation could. She was watching. She always watches this. Not obviously. But she registered whether you acknowledge that person as a full human being, or whether your attention only activates in the direction of people you consider worth impressing. A man who is warm and present with everyone regardless of what they can offer him is a man whose warmth means something. Because it is not conditional, and a woman who is considering letting someone into her life needs to know whether his kindness is a character trait or a performance reserved for an audience. The fourth thing she noticed is what your eyes were doing when you thought no one was paying attention to them. Were you scanning the room constantly, measuring, comparing, looking for something better or something more advantageous? Were you looking at her in a way that reduced her to a visual assessment? Or were your eyes calm, present, engaged with whatever was directly in front of you without the restless drift of a man who is always somewhere slightly ahead of where he actually is? The eyes reveal the quality of a man's attention, and the quality of his attention reveals the quality of his inner life. A man whose gaze is settled and present communicates that he is actually here. That is a rarer thing than it should be, and a woman registers it immediately. The fifth thing she noticed is whether your confidence required her cooperation to sustain itself. This is perhaps the most telling thing she assessed in those first 5 minutes, and the one most men are completely unaware of. Some men project confidence that is contingent. It requires a certain response from the environment in order to maintain itself. If the response is warm and encouraging, the confidence holds. If the response is neutral or indifferent, it visibly deflates. A woman can feel that contingency even when she is not actively testing for it. She can sense the man who needs her to smile before he fully relaxes. She can sense the approval seeking that sits just beneath the surface of the performance. And she can equally sense the man whose sense of himself does not shift based on how she is receiving him in any given moment. That second man is the one she keeps thinking about after the interaction is over. Not because he was trying to be memorable, but because genuine self-possession is one of the most compelling things a human being can carry into a room. The sixth thing she noticed is whether he listened or whether he waited to speak. In whatever interaction occurred in those first 5 minutes, she was paying close attention to whether he was genuinely receiving what she said, or whether he was simply waiting for a gap in which to continue his own presentation. A man who actually listens, who responds to what was specifically said rather than to a general version of the conversation he was already having in his own head, produces a feeling in a woman that is almost startling in its rarity. She feels heard. And feeling heard by a man she has just met creates an immediate and powerful sense of connection that she will attribute to chemistry without necessarily understanding that what she experienced was simply the unusual gift of his full attention. The seventh thing she noticed is how he handled a moment of friction or awkwardness. Something small, a minor inconvenience, an interaction that did not go smoothly, a moment where the social environment produced something uncomfortable. How did he respond? Did he tighten? Did he overreact or overcorrect? Did he perform unbotheredness in a way that was itself a form of reaction? Or did he simply absorb it and continue without making the moment larger than it needed to be? A man's response to small friction is one of the most accurate previews of how he will handle large friction. And a woman who is assessing a man in those first 5 minutes is always, beneath everything else, asking herself a version of the same question. Is this a man I can trust to stay steady when things get difficult? The small moments answer that question more honestly than anything he could choose to tell her. Here is the truth that sits underneath all of this. A woman is not assessing you in those first 5 minutes in order to find reasons to dismiss you. She is looking for evidence that you are what her instincts are already suggesting you might be. She wants to be right about you. She is hoping the initial impression holds up. What she is doing is testing whether the surface is consistent with what lies beneath it. The men who pass that assessment effortlessly are not the ones who prepared the most carefully. They are the ones who have done enough internal work that who they are on the outside is simply an accurate reflection of who they are on the inside. There is no gap between the presentation and the reality. And a woman's instincts, which are extraordinarily well calibrated for detecting exactly that gap, find nothing to catch on. You cannot fake your way through the first 5 minutes with a woman who is paying attention. But you do not need to. Become the man those minutes would accurately represent, and the assessment takes care of itself. I am Grace. This is wisdom and lace. If this gave you a genuinely different way of understanding what is happening in those early moments of connection, share it with a man who needs to hear it. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Tell me which of these surprised you the most. I read every single one. I will see you in the next one.